The invasion fleet hung in Earth's orbit like a crown of thorns, 300 warships casting shadows across entire continents. Empress Valara Nethys stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Eternal Dominion, watching the blue planet spin beneath her. She had conquered 47 worlds in her lifetime. Earth would be the 48th. Invasion forces are in position, Your Radiance, Commander Threx reported, his forearms clasped behind his chitinous back. Ground assault can commence on your order. Valara said nothing. Her silver eyes, pupils slitted like a cat's, studied the planet with the cold calculation that had made her the most feared ruler in 3 galaxies. Humanity had rejected the Imperium's terms. They would learn, as all others had learned, that defiance carried a price. Her daughter Kara stood beside her, small hands pressed against the viewport. At 7 solar cycles old, she barely reached her mother's waist, but she already wore the ceremonial armor of the Imperial bloodline. Her scales, still soft with youth, gleamed purple in the starlight. "Will there be fire, Mother?" Kyra asked, her voice small. "There will be conquest," Valara replied, "as there always is." But something had gone wrong with the preliminary strike. A human facility, some kind of educational center, had been damaged but not destroyed. Kyra had been in the observation pod when it happened, touring the fleet with her handlers. The pod had malfunctioned, crashed into the building. By the time Valara's forces reached the site, her daughter was gone. For 6 hours, the Empress who had raised civilizations felt something she hadn't experienced in decades: fear. John Hale was mopping the hallway of Madison Elementary School when the ceiling exploded. He dove behind his janitor's cart as debris rained down, metal and concrete thundering into the linoleum he'd just cleaned. When the dust settled, there was a smoking hole in the roof and something small and purple crawling out of the wreckage. John's first thought was that it was a child. His second thought was that children didn't usually have scales, claws, or a tail. The little alien girl looked up at him with huge, terrified eyes. She was crying, or making a sound that seemed like crying, a high-pitched keening that made John's chest hurt. Blood, purple blood, dripped from a cut on her forehead. Hey, John said softly, setting down his mop. "It's okay. You're safe." She didn't understand English. He didn't understand whatever language she spoke. But fear and pain were universal, and so was gentleness. John knelt down slowly, keeping his movements calm. The girl flinched but didn't run. He pulled the first aid kit from his cart, the one he kept for scraped knees and playground accidents. With careful hands, he cleaned her wound. She whimpered but let him work. Outside, he could hear sirens, screams, the roar of ships overhead. The invasion had begun. But in this moment, in this hallway, there was just a scared child who needed help. "You got some pretty hair," John said quietly, noticing the long, fine strands that fell past her shoulders, surprisingly human-like despite their silver color. "My daughter used to make me practice braiding on her dolls. Got pretty good at it, too." The girl tilted her head, watching him with those enormous eyes. John gestured to her hair, then mimed a braiding motion. After a moment, she nodded. So John Hale, 53-year-old janitor, sat cross-legged on the floor of a hallway in an alien invasion and braided a little girl's hair. He worked slowly, his calloused fingers gentle, forming the pattern his daughter had taught him years ago. A simple 3-strand braid, nothing fancy, but made with care. The girl stopped crying. She leaned back against him, small and trusting as the world burned outside. Valara's soldiers found them 20 minutes later. She stormed through the broken building with murder in her heart, prepared to tear apart whoever had taken her daughter. Her elite guards surrounded her, weapons primed, scanning for threats. What she found was a human male sitting against a wall, her daughter asleep in his lap, head resting on his chest. Kyra's hair was braided in a simple but neat pattern. A bloodied bandage covered her wound. The human's hand rested protectively on her back. "Don't move," Valara snarled, her weapon raised. Her translator rendered the words into English. John Hale looked up at her tiredly. "She's okay," he said. "Just scared. I think she has a mild concussion, but she should be fine." Valara stared at him, at this creature who could have run, could have hidden, could have used her daughter as a hostage. Instead, he had stayed, had cared for her. Why? The question came out harsh, confused. John looked down at the sleeping child, then back at the Empress. "Because she needed help," he said simply. What else was I supposed to do? In that moment, Empress Valara Nethys, conqueror of worlds, destroyer of fleets, the iron hand of the Imperium, saw something she had not seen in any of her previous 47 conquests. She saw what humanity actually was beneath their primitive weapons and fragile bodies. She saw a person who stopped to help a child when the sky was falling. She saw what her empire had forgotten: kindness without reason, compassion without benefit, gentleness as a default rather than a luxury. Valara lowered her weapon. "What is your name?" "John Hale, ma'am." "John Hale," she repeated. She looked at her daughter, peaceful in his arms, more relaxed than Kara had been in months despite being in a war zone. "You could have fled. You could have harmed her." "No," John said quietly. "I really couldn't have." Valara reached down and carefully lifted Kara from his arms. Her daughter stirred, murmured something in her sleep. The Empress's eyes traced the braid in her hair, simple but made with obvious care. "Commander Threx," she said into her comm, "cease all invasion operations immediately. Your Radiance?" The commander's voice crackled with confusion. "You heard me. Pull back all forces. I want full retreat to orbit within the hour." Valara looked at John Hale, this unremarkable human with kind eyes and gentle hands. "We will not invade Earth," she said. "Not today. Perhaps not ever." John blinked. "Because I braided your daughter's hair?" "Because you showed me what an empire forgets," Valara said. "That power means nothing if it cannot protect moments like these." She paused. "We have much to learn from you, John Hale, and I do not destroy my teachers." As she carried Kara toward the extraction point, the little girl woke briefly. She looked back at John and waved a small clawed hand. John waved back. The invasion fleet left Earth's orbit that night, vanishing into the stars as mysteriously as it had come. Humanity would spend years wondering why, debating theories and possibilities, but John Hale knew. He'd seen it in an Empress's eyes, that flicker of recognition, that moment of understanding. Sometimes the greatest victories aren't won with weapons. Sometimes they're won with gentleness when the world expects none. And sometimes all it takes to stop a war is a scared child, a quiet man in a simple braid made with care.